there's a lot of sort of physical processes represented in your work, and geological processes, the stratification, the layers, and you talked about the dirt, the compost, the decay. What is that connection? Is that part of the same connection? Does that have some kind of connection to the land? Is it your land?
Yeah, well, actually, one of the things that I became really interested in when I was beginning to make quilts was in fact that geological layering. Not only the quilt as a layered object, which reminded me of the layered aspect of the land, but also the land as a potential image source, because I was going back and forth through the Smoky Mountains, and the mountains have a strong emotional draw for a lot of people, but they're also very cultivated spaces. They're not completely wilderness. They're very crafted through road building. They're manipulated through mining. They're manicured through park building. And so that the forms that result from looking at the road cutting through the land, and from the layout of parks and the chopping away of mountaintops is beautiful just as form. Mm-hmm. And I found a huge vocabulary of forms that I could work with just by sort of riffing on roads on a mountain, mm-hmm. For 20, 30 drawings. No specific narrative behind it, as doodles don't usually have much of a specific narrative behind them, but it's merely more about the idea of just the stack of imagery. This is called Chimney Rock in Bloom, and it was based on postcards of a place that I visited called Chimney Rock in North Carolina, which is a really popular tourist attraction. But the image has nothing to do with Chimney Rock. It's really more of just sort of exuberant form that I was building. And I was also very interested in more and more dense information in forms. And so I was really going into these patterned fabrics and trying to just build this form from the inside out in a really organic fashion.
I've noticed in your films, the dozens, there's a lot of earth-based, nature-based imagery in there. And does this translate, kind of your belief system, does it translate over into your filmmaking, to your to the imagery in the films, or is this something separate?
Well, I didn't expect it to come in. I actually started the project as simply a way to make something collaboratively with friends, and I picked 5 different people who each had a very distinct kind of personal style, and that sort of related to an aspect of my own personality and my own interests. So I had one person who's very quiet, one person who's very raucous with black humor, and one person who is very sort of earthy and witchy and mysterious. And but what I found was that there was a sort of a common thread that ran through all the films, and I don't know how much of that was my channeling of them, this one wavelength that we were on together, each one of us, or if I actually just inserted it in because I wanted it to be in there.
Huh?
They're my avatars. What happened, what eventually started becoming inserted in the films, was this common sort of element of things breaking down and then coming back again in some other form. And it occurs in Driveway, the film Driveway, a few times, but there's this sort of figure in there that has this head that's sort of made of mud, and at a certain point that head kind of breaks apart. And there are a lot of things that sort of disperse in that film, There are also a lot of circular movements which sort of represent that idea of cycle. In I Am the Bomb, there's a point where we sort of almost like a climactic point for me where our heads smash together and just become this gravel, this rubble. And this, you know, that film was definitely related to political themes in the world, and certainly had to have been influenced to some degree by the rubble of 9/11. But that idea again of things just kind of breaking down and then coming back up out of that rubble. And in the one with the horses, Civil Twilight, there's definitely several animated drawing sequences that have things just sort of disintegrating and coming back. I actually remembered a long time ago walking down a horse trail in California and loving the turds on the ground because you could see them in various states of return to the earth. You know, you could see the turd, and then since these horses were eating grass, as it would sort of merge back into the earth, the little tiny short stalks of grass would appear in it, and you just see this grass sort of spreading out. And I think that influenced the making of that horse video quite a bit. And so horse became another kind of avatar in a way for that cycle.
Well, to me, the deer is kind of like the most sort of like ultra romanticized. It's got the Bambi associations, and there's obviously the Frida Kahlo associations. There's a Christ, the deer. There's any number of ways that the deer appears. The Buddha becomes enlightened in Deer Park, and the deer seems to be very much a heightened example of that, and very evocative to me in your imagery.
Yeah, it just surfaces once in those films and in the quilts, and it's sticking its head in a pile of mud. So yeah, again, this like really romantic, sweet object kind of, debasing itself.
I love the crossover. It seems to me like you're of a generation, as am I, of artists who do not want to define a media. That there's more to you than just the media in which you work to define you. It seems that's very much how you operate, where it could be another media that emerges out of these quilts. Would you say that might happen?
Yeah. I think there's just so much fun stuff to do out there and so much interesting stuff to learn about and try. And I think a lot of artists feel that way now, that they don't have to define themselves by medium. But I'm getting ready to do another song project, and this time I'm going to do it on my own, writing songs about quilts. And basically writing songs about those different aspects of quilts that I'm interested in, about the historical aspects, about the nostalgic aspects, the aspects that reference breakdown and coming back together. And I'm going to make a couple of animated films in which I think I'm going to actually animate quilts somehow. So finally there'll be some sort of a merging of the two things.
And I'm sure a musical is going to follow.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'll be waiting for that. Yeah. Well, Denise, we're so pleased to have you here, and so honored that you're exhibiting at the Bruce Gallery. And so, it's nice to see your work, and it's nice to see the animation and the continual evolution and recycling of your original dirt.
Thank you.